Hello, welcome to the PHONEWORD Workshops event on Wednesday, November the 18th, 2015. It is 11 a.m. Eastern Time, and today is part two of our November workshops. And today we're going to add nodes to the blockchain that we created last week using the MultiChain platform. We're going to add some nodes, or add a node. I've already added an additional node using DigitalOcean. And today we're going to add a third node, and we're going to create some assets and maybe do a few other functions. So if you didn't catch the first part, you can find it at phonewordworkshops.com, and that will show you how to set up your initial node and blockchain using DigitalOcean. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start screen sharing, and I'll show you the desert block, or excuse me, the MultiChain site. And this is the platform that we're going to be using today. I like MultiChain for a number of reasons. I think it's relatively easy to work with, has managed permissions, it's easy to deploy, and it's definitely gotten some news lately in The Economist and on CoinDesk. I recommend you read these articles on the MultiChain platform. It is a derivative from the Bitcoin Core platform, and I think this team has done a great job of adding some very powerful functionality, and it's designed for experimentation. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to DigitalOcean, and this is the site for DigitalOcean. So if you haven't set up an account, I recommend you go in and set up an account. We're not going to go over that part today. But once you set up an account, you'll have a dashboard like this, and you can see that I've got 3 droplets, or basically server instances set up. And last week we set up the MultiChain Demo 1 PW for PHONEWORD Workshops at this IP address. And in the meantime, I've set up this MultiChain Demo 2 PW at this IP address, and this is up and operating and communicating. These two are communicating. But let's go ahead and set up a third droplet or server instance, and let me show you how to do that, and then we'll basically start from scratch here. So we're going to create a droplet, and we click on the Create Droplet. We choose a size, and I pick the $5 per month version, and then we can pick, we set up the initial server on the New York 2 data center provisioning. But let's get crazy and let's go to London and use that one for this third instance. We're going to use Ubuntu 14.04 64-bit version, and we're going to enable the private networking. And I forgot to add a host name to the droplet, and we're going to call this MultiChain Demo 3 PW. Excuse me, PW. So we do all that, and then we click Create, and it will now start building another droplet. And what we're going to do is we're going to SSH into this droplet once it's created. And we will download the MultiChain into this droplet and deploy it. And I'll show you how to do that. But it takes a few seconds to create the droplet. And you can do this on many different cloud platforms. DigitalOcean just happens to have one of the easier to deploy services out there. It's also recommended within the documentation of MultiChain, but you can actually deploy these nodes on a variety of machines, virtual machines, Raspberry Pis. Basically, there's a lot of flexibility. Any place you can run Linux or Ubuntu, you can deploy one of these nodes. So that adds to the decentralized functionality of the blockchain, as well as certainly MultiChain. So it's finishing up the creation. You can see I'm going to switch over to our Hangout to make sure that we're successfully screen sharing. Okay, so you can see we made MultiChain demo 3 PW is now active. We have an IP address, and we also have an email, which I'm going to stop screen sharing for just a moment to get into open my email. So bear with me just a moment. Stop the screen share. Okay, that's stopped. Now, okay. All right. So now I'll get back into screen sharing, and I won't be doing this back and forth again. Okay, so here is the email that you will receive after you create a new droplet on DigitalOcean. And this basically shows you the name of the droplet that you created, gives you an IP address, gives you a username, which is always root, to SSH into, and that's what we're going to do now. Also gives you a temporary password. So I'm going to copy this IP address. I'm going to switch over to the terminal, which I've opened. I've opened 3 tabs on the terminal. But before I do that, I want to make sure that we are, bear with me just one moment. I want to make sure that we're, all right. I'm going to assume that we are successfully screen sharing. Hang on. Oops. I apologize for this. Okay. So I've opened up 3 tabs in the terminal. This is going to be our initial node, which contains the blockchain, chain 1. This will be, the second one will be the second node that I created the other day. You can follow along, look right up here where it says TTYS01. This will be the new node that we're creating in this 3rd tab. So what we do is, once we've created a droplet on DigitalOcean, we're going to SSH into it. So SSH root, and then and then put in the IP address that was delivered in that email that I showed you a moment ago. Hit enter. It will come up with this RSA key fingerprint message. We're going to answer yes. And now it's time to put in the password that we got, which I'll zip over to here, back to the email, and copy this temporary password, zip back to the terminal. I'm copying that in. That was difficult for you to see, but trust me that I just did a Control V to copy in that password. Hit enter. and it comes back and says, okay, you're in, but we need to change your password. So give me the password that we sent you, the temporary password, copy that back in, and now it's going to have me create a new password. And I will do that. And going to re-enter it. And bingo, we are in the root of the MultiChain demo 3. You can see right here. And we're ready to create a new instance of MultiChain on this server that we just deployed using DigitalOcean. So let's go back into Chrome, and I'll show you where we're at. We are in this particular droplet, the MultiChain demo 3. And we're going to go back over to MultiChain and go into the documentation, which is right here in the download or the developers. And I've already opened a tab for that. So this is where we get the instructions as to how to create a MultiChain node. And we're already logged into the root, so we don't have to do that, but I'll simply do copy and paste on all these things so you don't watch my horrible typing. Click over to here, which is our terminal tab for the third node. Do a paste, switch directories into the temp. Now we go back over to here and just simply copy and paste this downloading command of the MultiChain instance, and the MultiChain software. And by the way, we are on Alpha 10, and the original blockchain that we created a week ago was on their Alpha 9 version. So keep that in mind, and paste that in, hit enter, and you can see that it's building the it's downloaded the MultiChain platform, and we have it on the temp root server, or temp file. And there you can, I did a listing, and you can see that it's there. So now we're going to open it up with this, and I copied and pasted that. Hit enter, and it's opened up those files. It's opened up that that tar file, and now we can do another list, and you can see that we've got the original tar file, and now we've got the MultiChain Alpha 10 folder. So we're going to cd into that. Change directories. Do that, and we are in. Do another listing. You can see all the files are there. And now we are going to move those files into a new path there. Okay, we've done that. Now when we do a list, you can see that those files have moved. If we cd over into the, well, we're going to skip that portion. So we're ready to go. And that has created, well, excuse me, that has and set up the MultiChain platform into the DigitalOcean instance that we created, which we're labeling as number 3. So now we can switch over to the getting started with MultiChain. And we already did this we created the chain 1 on the first server instance on DigitalOcean, so we're not going to do this again. But what we are going to do is we're going to, well, let's go ahead and SSH into the other nodes here so that we can kind of watch what's going on with the other two nodes. So here's our node 1 that contains the blockchain, the original blockchain that we created, and we're going to SSH into this one by copying this IP address and go back over to the terminal, go to my tab number 1, and simply do an SSH root at that droplet's IP address. Comes back, asks for the password, and hit enter, and voila, we're now connected. And we can do, let's get some information, peer info. I'm going to do the get info command. MultiChain -CLI chain1 get info will give us, this is what our first node is looking like that contains the blockchain, the chain 1. You can see we are on the alpha 9 on this particular node, and gives you the port information as well as the node address, which I'm going to caution you right now that I've had difficulty with this node address, but I'll show you that in a minute. You can see that we've got 5,209 blocks, and this tab in the terminal is going to allow us to interact with this particular node. So let's go ahead and SSH into the second instance, and you can see the TTYS00 is up here is the second instance. This is the first instance, and this is just on console, and could be different on yours. TTY00, and then we've got TTYS01 on this third tab. But let's go ahead and SSH into the second node, which is right here, MultiChain demo 2, and I'm going to copy this IP address. Let's see. Apologize, that's an incoming call. So this is our second tab in the terminal where we're going to SSH into the second node that has been set up. Hit that. And the password for this. Sorry about that. And now we can do the same command that we did over here, which is the MultiChain CLI chain 1 info. I'm going to copy that from the first tab, just lay it into the second tab. And here you can see we're getting the same information. Wait a second. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm going to exit out of this. And okay. So I did not SSH into the proper node. Okay, there's a correct IP address for node 2. Hit enter, and okay, now you can see we're logged into the MultiChain demo 2 in this tab. In this one, we're logged into the MultiChain demo 1. And in the third tab, we are logged into the MultiChain demo 3. So let's go ahead and put in this command into this second node and see what happens. Okay, so in this instance, you can see that we've got the alpha 10 version running on the demo 2, and this is the connection information to get to this node, and it's showing us the block size for chain 1, which is this name, and we're able to query what's going on with this particular node, which is the second node that I set up. So this is the first node. This is demo 1. This is demo 2. And then this is demo. So let's now go ahead and continue deploying the MultiChain on this third node that we've created in DigitalOcean. And so we've changed all of that. We've set it up. And now we're going to go into this part. So this is under the Getting Started with MultiChain. And what we need to do is we need to copy in the IP address here, and it will continue to fill in that information throughout the rest of the instructions and step us through how we can connect to the blockchain with this third node that we've set up. So let's go back to, and I'm going to show you a little trick here. If we go to, all right, here's the information for the first node. And you can see we've got chain 1, and then an address, and then a port. What we need to do is copy this information. And this will actually not work, or at least it hasn't worked for me. But this is what they want you to do, is to copy this information into here. So this is a bit of a word of caution. But if you copy that information as is, and then you execute this command as the instructions say, on the new node that you set up, which is over here, node number 3, if you do that, as they recommend to do here, you get an error, or you should get an error. Yep. So here it says retrieving network parameters from the seed node at this address, and you can see you get an error. So what I found you have to do is exchange out this address with the IP address of that first node. So let's go ahead and do that. And I'm going to switch back over to here. I'm going to go back into the DigitalOcean and put this IP address for that first server instance into, swap it out here. Oops. Okay. Let me just type it in by hand. That did not work out. So we want to do multi-chain. Multi-chain chain 1 at, and then copy that in, which is the IP address for the first node. And then 6721. Basically, so we're taking this IP address out and we're putting this IP address in, and let's see what happens. Okay, so that was successful. You can see that this is the address to connect to the chain 1, and so we have successfully sort of knocked on the door of the first instance on in our peers, and so we successfully knocked on the door of this one. And if we go back over to the documentation, you can see that this is what's supposed to happen. You should be told that the blockchain was successfully initialized, but you do not have permission to connect. You should also be shown a message containing an address in this node's wallet. Copy and paste the address here. So, and it starts with a 1. So we go back over to here and we copy and paste this. And watch what happens down here in the instructions when I do that. Okay, so you see that the web page has automatically filled in the connection address for chain 1 to connect this new node to the first server node for chain 1. So we now copy and paste this into here. And again, we're back to the third instance. So when I do that, I hit enter. I'm sorry. I meant to, I was reading the instructions. Back on the first server, add connection permissions for this address. So I need to go back to the first server, which is right here, and copy and paste that instruction in. Okay, right there, giving it connect privileges, and voila, that has successfully added the connection for the third server, which is this server, to connect to the blockchain 1. Okay, and now we can go back in and reconnect again from the second, or in this case, it's a third server. And when I do that, go back over here to the third server. Paste that in, and it's starting. All right. So you can see that the node started. So we've successfully got connection to all three of these nodes are now connected. This is the first server, first node. This is the second node. And then this is the third node that we just created, and we've successfully connected to that. So let's go back over to the step-by-step instructions, and you should be shown a message that the node was started, and it should display the second node's address, or in this case, it's the third node's address. Okay, so now let's go through some of these commands. And we already did this actually in the last session, but let's just, for the fun of it, we'll do the first command to get info on this third server that we just started. And when I do this, get info, all right, you can see we're using MultiChain 1.0 alpha version 10, and here's the additional information related to this particular instance. So, and again, we're at MultiChain demo 3 PW. Okay, so the last thing that we're going to do today is we're going to create an asset. And so we are going to create a new asset and send it between nodes on the first server. On the first server, get the address that has the permission to create assets. And so let's go ahead and copy this and run it on the first server. Over here to server number 1, you see demo number 1. Enter, and okay. So here is the list permissions and the address, and we copy this address into here, and voila, it updates this next instruction with the correct address. Now we'll create a new address on this node with 1,000 units each, which can be subdivided into 100 parts, and send it to itself. And I actually have already done that, but let's go ahead and run it again and see what happens. So again, we're back on the first node, and I put that in. Okay. So the asset already exists. Let's change this command to asset2, just for the fun of it. We'll have basically the same initial characteristics as asset1, but now it's going to be called asset2 on chain 1. And bingo, you can see it was created. Now, on both servers, it says, and we're going to do this on all 3 servers, we're going to take a look at asset 1 as listed. And so let's copy this command and go into, you can see we're on the first server. That. Now you can see we've got asset 1 and we've got asset 2 with the some information, how many units do we have, and what are the multiples, and basically these 2 assets are identical, almost identical in terms of their parameters. So let's go ahead and run this on all three instances. So here we're in demo 2, and we can take a look at the same assets on the blockchain. And let's go back into, excuse me, here on the third. This is the node that we set up a few minutes ago. And you can see it's reflecting the same thing, the same information. So this is starting to give you a sense of what is possible using the blockchain, where all of a sudden you've got this decentralized technology creating assets, and all that information is starting to be shared among the various nodes that are out there. And this is starting to demonstrate the power of what we're talking about with the blockchain. So you can see that all three nodes are up and working and running. Now, the next step in the instructions is to check the asset balances on each server, and this should show a balance of 1,000, and the second should show no assets at all, although the second will show some assets because I did a little transferring before this session. But the third server will show no assets. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. We're going to copy this and again tab back over to the first, hit get balances. So on the first server, here's our get balances command. You can see asset 2, we've got 1,000, and then asset 1, we've got 1,000. And let's run the same command on the second server. And that shows nothing. I'm sorry, I was mistaken. I did not transfer any assets to the second server prior to this session, but you can see we're on server 2 or node 2. And if we go to the third, which we just created, we should get a similar result to the second server. And yes, in fact, you can see we've got no assets on in this particular server instance. So now on the first server, we're going to try sending 100 units of the assets to the second server's wallet. So actually, this is going to be the third server, I believe, but let's take a look. And we should get an error. The first server, you can see we're on 1 PW. And we're trying to send 100 units of asset 1. And you can see we get an error saying it doesn't have receive permission. So you should see an error that the address does not have a receive permission. So it's time to add receive and send permissions. So let's go ahead and add this command to server 1. And we are on server 1. Make sure. All right, so we're granting, and bingo, we've granted that permission, and I'm a little bit lost right now. I'm not sure if this address is for server 1 or server 2. I think it's, or excuse me, server 2 or 3. And now we're going to send assets again, and it should go through. So let's copy and paste this on server 1. And see what happens. Okay, that looks successful. Okay, if the transaction that created the asset has not hit confirm the block, you will see another error and should wait around 30 seconds before trying again. This assumes you left the block time on the default of 15 seconds. Now check the asset balances on each server, including the transactions which are not yet confirmed, and they should be 900 and 1,000 respectively. So let's give that a try. So we're going to stay on server 1, put in that command that we just pasted, and okay, indeed, you can see asset number 1 on server number 1, there's now 900 units. Now let's go over to server number 2 and see what is available there. Okay, server number 2, we didn't do any transfer of assets because we had the address for server number 3. But now if we go into server number 3, and you can see we're now at server number 3, we hit enter, and voila, we've got 100 assets of asset 1 that's now on server number 3. So that's all we're going to do for today. This should give you a sense of how to use MultiChain. I know I've gone over a lot in a very short period of time, and I'm going to switch back off. Actually, I'm going to go back to this. This is the MultiChain instructions, and again, you can get all of this here on MultiChain, the MultiChain website, both under the download and install MultiChain, and then the getting started on MultiChain. I'll go back up here. We've basically just been following along these instructions. And again, you can set this up in a variety of ways, either on standalone servers, Raspberry Pis, whatever, or you can use DigitalOcean, which we've used DigitalOcean today. So that's pretty much it for today. And I'm going to go back to Google Hangout. I'm going to stop the screen sharing. And I appreciate your time and attention. I hope you found this valuable. The PhoneWord Workshops events are on the 2nd and 3rd Wednesdays of each month. On the 4th Wednesday of the month at 4 p.m. Eastern Time is the PhoneWord Forum, which is a sister entity and basically an independent but sister entity. And the PhoneWord Forum is designed to talk about policy and business models associated with the web, with communications, and other areas of interest such as security. So the PhoneWord Workshops is designed to be technical and hands-on, and we are starting to get into more of a hands-on experience with the PhoneWord Workshops, and it's the intention to continue this on the 2nd and 3rd Wednesdays of the month. The other item that might be of interest to you is yet another entity, which is called Desert Blockchain. And on Wednesday, November the 25th at 7 p.m. Arizona time at Gangplank Chandler, there will be an hour-and-a-half long session, which is the monthly event for Desert Blockchains. And there you can go in person and work with us to set up multi-chain instances, blockchains, and we will be exchanging assets back and forth and doing some other development and innovation using the blockchain and other elements to create use cases and value propositions. So you can find that at desertblockchain.com. Also in January, on January 30th, there'll be an all-day event for the Desert Blockchain community, which will be at Gangplank Chandler, again, from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. And that event is a combination of a mini conference in the morning where we'll have 4 half-hour sessions talking about the blockchain and agile development. And then we'll break into teams. We'll go to lunch. We come back in the afternoon for about a 3.5-hour long team. We call it a team hack session. And you can participate in that. Even if you don't know anything about blockchain, you don't code, you don't do anything, I invite you to come and participate. It's a great way to get hands-on experience, meet other people that have interest in the blockchain, and basically learn. But at the end of the day, the teams will come back in, present, vote among themselves, no judges. They will vote among themselves as to what the best project is, and then we'll have an awards ceremony, and that'll be it. So that will be happening on a quarterly basis. Generally, the last, actually, we've broken the quarterly basis, but the next one will be 3 months after that, which I believe will be in April. So that's the lineup. I appreciate your interest, and if you have any suggestions, please contact me, Jay Carpenter, and you can email me at jcarpenter@phonewordworkshops.com. So thanks for your time and your attention. Please let us know if you have any feedback, and look forward to you continuing in the process of exploring the blockchain and creating what's next. Goodbye.